Hi guys, welcome back to Chokora Chronicles. Thank you so much for those guys who have continued to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for the guys who have supported us at GLC. Thank you for those who have just interacted with us. And we also hope that the content we bring you on this channel is helping you in one way or another to address some of the challenges that we face as a society. I would say one of those challenges that people face is the lack of an identity, kutojijua. And that makes for dangerous living, because when you don't know yourself, people or the world will give you an identity if you don't know your true identity. For me, the world gave me an identity, a false one. I was a chokora. That was the identity the world had given me. Sikujijua, and I was pretty comfortable in that identity until God found me and gave me back my true identity. This issue of lack of self-identity is something I feel we should talk about. And today I have Dr.Githaiga Kamau, who runs a very successful self-discovery program with us, who will be talking to us about this issue. Thank you.
My name is Dr.Githaiga Kamau. I'm actually the chairman of the GLC board. And I have a passion for helping people become what God created them to be. My background really isn't in social work. My background really is in science. I have a background in veterinary medicine, but in the course of time I discovered, as I talk about passion, is that I'm passionate about helping people become what they were created to become. And so in the process, I found that I'm interested in working with communities. And as I worked with communities, I discovered actually communities are made up of individuals. And I started focusing on the individual and wondering, if communities are not able to achieve what they are achieving, what about the individual? And you find the individual is also lost. And many times it's just knowledge, just awareness. And I found that you'll find communities that are over and over getting into problems. And all they needed is a facilitator to tell them, by the way, if you sat down and asked yourself, how can we solve this problem? They easily solve the problem. But Kenyans know about places where every wet season, there'll be a flood, and every flood, they'll ask for serikali's idea. And you're wondering, they knew the flood was coming. Why didn't they do something about it? The same thing happens at an individual level. Sometimes you get to a point where you know there's a problem coming, but somehow it always hits you, you know. You just never prepared for it. It requires a little bit of awareness and a little bit of saying, wait a minute, why do I keep falling into this? So that's my passion. My passion is to help communities and people find their destiny, find their purpose in life, be able to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. So for me, I think I was created to help people become. And regardless of what my background is, I feel I am myself. I am expressing self at the moment when I'm helping people or communities discover what it is they were created to be and be able to solve their problems and achieve, and their aspirations, whatever their aspirations are, they can be able to achieve, because God created us to achieve. That's why when God said in Genesis, let us make man in our own image, the next statement he said, and let them rule. So human beings were created to rule. And to rule requires understanding, knowledge, vision, and alignment to the vision. So a human being needs to align themselves to a vision so that they can be able to achieve. And that's really, leadership is really about helping people achieve, or helping yourself achieve. And for you to achieve, you must have a vision. And for you to have a vision, you must know what is inside of you, and you must have confidence in yourself that the vision you have is important enough to be followed through. And unfortunately, many people get lost somewhere along the way because nobody told them that really the vision they have inside of them is important and they can follow through. So for me, that is my purpose in life, to help others discover themselves. One day I was doing whatever it is that I do, and a man called Solomon called me, introduced himself and says, I've just been told by a friend of mine that you can help me. And he went ahead to tell me the whole story of GLC and where their issues are. And after he gave me the story, I wasn't sure how I could help him. So I said, I don't know why the person thought I could help you, but why don't you call the people you've been with and we can think through the problems and see what the solutions are. And that started a series of meetings that we had with the group that was around GLC, the friends of Solomon. And that's when I discovered that what GLC was. It was a rescue center that had been started by a reverend who had passed away, and because he had maintained it by his own personal networks, it was difficult to keep it going. So we sat down together and said, so how do we keep it going? And I told them, okay, I thought I was very busy. I said, I'll support you maybe for a month. Since I do have a background in leadership and I can help with strategic planning, I said, I'll help you guys come up with a strategy and then I'll move on. I didn't think I was going to stay for long. So we went through that process. But GLC has something in it that just catches you. As we began to engage with the people, and begin to engage with those who are being rescued, I found that I wasn't going to stay with them for a short time, and I have been with them for the last 3 years, and we've moved quite a lot. We've been able to move from where they were. We were able to get their debt paid, not because there was any expertise, but simply by people getting together and saying, what can we do? How can we support this? And bringing other people to say, this is a great ministry that is having an impact on people. And as soon as people hear that, they say, yeah, I want to support. And really, this is a community-based organization because it is actually being paid for by community. People just say, I like what you guys are doing, so I'm supporting. I like what you guys are doing, so do you guys need firewood? Do you guys need food? And GLC for the last 3 years have just seen amazing what Kenyans can do, because it is Kenyans who have come together and says, let's support this. And in the process, we have seen many people rescued from the streets, people who had lost their way, and they get back. And for me, it's one of the most fulfilling things I do. I look forward every Friday to come because whatever else I do, I think GLC is one of the things I do that give the most meaning to my life. I'm very glad to be at GLC, actually, talking to the men who are in the rescue center. One of the reasons why I started working with GLC is just the reality that for people to be where many of these men end up, many of them ending up in the streets or just losing their direction in life, the core problem is that they lose themselves somewhere along the way of life. Many people will find that even though they may have started well and there was a direction they were going, they get to a place where they find that there are distractions that have happened in their lives and suddenly they are lost. They don't know where they were supposed to be going. Now, human beings were created to rule over certain areas of life. Each individual is very unique. And that is the reason why we take thumbprints so that we can identify an individual, because each individual is very unique. But we are not just unique physically, we are also unique internally. And our lives really, our journey of life really is an expression of self. As we express self, we find our position in life. That is the reason why when children are born, we take them to school. And what we hope that when they go to school is that they are discovering their abilities. So you'll have one child who is good in mathematics, another one is good as a storyteller, and another one is good with their hands. And we hope that as they go to school, we identify their different abilities. And as we identify their abilities, we then add knowledge to those abilities. And those abilities become skills that they sell in the marketplace. Everything you will ever do in life is in service to others. And you serve others by the skills that you have developed, your abilities and your talents. Now, as you express self, you serve others, you will find that you get paid for it. So every coin you will ever make in life will always come from somebody else's pocket. And the question is, how will you get the coin out of that other person's pocket? And the only way to get the coin, you could use different methods. You could, like we say in Kiswahili, piga ngeta, you could cheat somebody out of, but for you to sustainably get a living, you've got to get the money by either providing a service, selling a good, always meeting a need that somebody else needs. And in fact, the richest people on this planet are the ones who have the biggest numbers of customers. They've been able to find something to sell to the biggest number of people, and therefore they make a huge amount of money. That's why Safaricom, for instance, is one of the largest companies, because they're selling something that everybody is using. And each individual, therefore, needs to find that sweet spot where what they love to do, what they are skilled to do, is then finding users who are willing to pay because they need that service. And God has created us to fit together with each other that way. And so we help children learn who they are by identifying their abilities and their talents, and hopefully we add knowledge to those abilities and talents, and they become skills that we sell in the market. So when a child is born completely helpless. And at that point, they are dependent, and everybody expects a child is dependent. In fact, the biggest characteristic of a child is that they are dependent. But when that child begins to grow, we want to see them become independent. They begin to do things on their own. At the beginning, they could feed themselves, they feed themselves. We celebrate the first step they take. We celebrate the fact that they can talk. We celebrate the milestones of life as they become more and more independent. And it is almost obvious that we want independent human beings. So they move from dependency to independent. As they become independent, they then are able to express self. But that independence is also an expression of will. I mean, they have their own will. I mean, we call the 2-year-olds the terrible twos because they've discovered their will and they can say no, and they discover they are beginning to have control of their mother. They can tell their mother no, and they begin to enjoy that will. That will is power. And that power is the power to express self. And that expression of self is critical for you to be able to tell the world who you are and to present to the world the things that are inside of you. Not even your mother knows what is inside of you. Only you can be able to express self. So we find that as we're growing, there are things we love that others don't love. There are things we do easily that others don't do so easily. There are things we don't have to make an effort, and they just happen. And that way we begin to express ourselves based on our likes, based on the things that move us, based on the things that really we find we are passionate about. If you ask somebody why they are passionate about something, they may not tell you why. They just are, because they're expressing self. And as they express self, they begin to then find their space. They find themselves in space and time, where they fit in society, where they fit in their family, where they fit in. And they begin to find that spot where we were talking about, that they now have a skill that they want to sell in the marketplace. Now, it is assumed that the person will move to become independent, a child becomes independent, and then as they sell their skills, you realize that independence is not an end in itself. You must be interdependent. You are able to, give and take. You buy from others and you sell what it is that you have. I mean, if people wake up and the first thing they need is a service that you're providing, you will find that you will always have money in your pocket. But if you are waking up every morning and you're just a customer to somebody else, you'll find that money comes in your pocket and money goes. And that's the reason why I like to say that we call it currency, because actually it sounds exactly like current. And a current flows. So you have money comes into your pocket, and young people will tell you, as long as there is money in their pocket, they are restless, because the money is talking to them. It's telling them, what do we do? What do we do? Now, as soon as you have money, is not an end in itself. And it's very important for young people to understand that money is not an end in itself. Money is a supporter of your goals. It's a supporter. You want to eat, so you need money to buy food. You want to sleep, so you need money to get accommodation. So money is always a supporter of a goal. And that goal really is an expression of self. So money is a critical thing in understanding yourself, because you need to have to understand, how am I surviving? What it is I'm having? And I'm bringing the whole issue of money because when you're talking about becoming independent, we're also talking about being able to earn your own living. And for you to earn your own living, you have to be able to express self from the point of view of being able to sell a service or a good based on what you love, based on what is on the inside of you. Now, and that is the background we normally talk to. It sounds completely obvious, but it's amazing how many people just lose it somewhere along the road. Somewhere along the road, something happens and they lose it. And they suddenly find that although they had grown to a place of independence, when it comes to interdependence, they are struggling. They are not able to quite place themselves in space and time, and so they are able, so that they can become what you call an adult. And when we say in Kiswahili we say wacha utoto, it means you're not behaving like the adult you should be. An adult should be responsible. An adult should be able to earn their own living. An adult should be able to make decisions and move. And that is the definition of independence. At interdependent level, then you're able then to say, how do I sell the good to the next person? How do I earn my living? And it's not just the fact that I have a great skill, but it's the fact that I'm able to attract customers to me. So I know how to relate. So I know how to create trust. So I know how to interrelate. So at those three levels, we have the dependence level, the independent level, and the interdependent level. And at each stage, you have certain qualities that you need to have for you to be able to survive. So if you assume that all the child needed was knowledge to develop their ability into a skill and sell the skill in the market, you will then find that that's not enough. In fact, I usually talk to guys in GLC and tell them, when you have great skill, and some people are talented, if you don't have something else on this other side, which is character, you will find that your great ability can become a danger to yourself. And we've seen many people who are very skilled, but once they become what you call successful, they now have money in their pocket. If they don't grow in their character, ability to actually decide and make decisions that are sustainable in the long run, you will find that they begin to fall back down towards a dependent level. So you climb up on one side of skills and abilities and you're able to sell, but if you don't have character, you will fall right back to a dependent level. So you'll find that people will get dependent, for example, on drugs. And the question we usually ask is, how come people are drinking, but once you touch beer, you will not stop until tomorrow morning? What is the difference? How come somebody can have a whiskey, but one person will touch whiskey and will not be able to stop themselves? In other words, that statement, they are not being able to stop themselves, is saying that they do not have independence of will to be able to say no. So as they steer their life, they are finding that they don't have brakes in certain areas. They are losing their steering. So they lose control. And in self-discovery, we say that power of will is nothing without control. If you don't have the control over it, it's like driving a car downhill. You're driving a car and your brakes fail, you will end up in the ditch. If you're not able to steer, you'll end up where you don't want to go. So whatever has power requires direction, and it requires ability to stop and move and stop and move. So that steering is what character is all about. And when we now talk about character, the other side of self-development is that children, if you enter a classroom and you watch children play, you can actually tell the difference between their behavior. You can tell this one bullies the others, this one is very polite, this one. And the question that comes to your mind immediately, especially when you see one who's harassing others, you'll always ask yourself the questions, whose child is that? Why? Because character is developed at home. It's a parenting issue. So we always ask, whose child is that? Have they not been trained? Because human beings don't just grow like maize. They need training. And that is the reason why they need parenting. So that as they grow, they are molded and they are told how to behave in the world. They are told how they can fit in with others. Now, the basics of character is values. That is, what are the values the child has been taught as important? Values are basically things that you give priority to, things that are important for you to pay attention to, things that you prioritize. It is important for you to be polite to others. It is important for you to say thank you. It is important for you to say excuse me. Those things are trained. They don't come naturally. And therefore, if character comes from home and it's a basis of parenting, you can then imagine how many different types of people grow in so many different types of environments, and many of them just never get an opportunity to be trained. And many of them, there's nothing wrong with a person, they just never had an opportunity to be trained on the values. What are the key values? They've picked up values as they went along, and they never really got to know which values they should concentrate on and which one they should not. And that is so important, because a lot of people who end up in GLC have issues in their background. Nobody told them, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And one of the most important things we learn in school is not so much the subjects that we learn, it's just the discipline, for example, of sitting down and listening. Just to be able to sit and listen is a very important value that you learn from school. They don't even test it, and yet it's one of the most important things you learn. When you meet a group of people, and many times I've talked to street people, and I find that as I talk to chokoras, they have a difficulty listening to me. They can't listen to a concept to the end, not because they don't want to, not even because they may be high on glue, but it's because they were never trained to sit and concentrate on one thing and listen. And because they were not trained, they struggle in life. They struggle to control their will. Therefore, they struggle at the independence level. And that independence level is really the ability to be able to know how to control your will, how to control your desires, how to control what you want, and to say no to certain things and yes to others. At the basic level, there's a need for people to be trained, for children to be trained, so that they know what values are important and those that are not. Now, those values, once they are caught, they influence behavior. Now, behavior, then usually as people behave in certain ways, there are certain responses they get from life, and they respond. They'll discover, oh, I can't always have my way, because when I hit somebody else, they will retaliate. So they begin to know, oh, I need to stop myself. I may be angry, but I don't have to hit, because I'll be hit back. So they know where to stop. So they're learning that at the independence level, that it's not enough for me to desire something. I need to control myself so that I can be able to achieve something. And in the process, you then begin to mold your character and your behavior, and your behavior then defines your character. Now, the problem with character is that after you do something several times, it becomes a habit. And a habit becomes almost uncontrollable to many people, because you ask them, why do you do that? I don't know, I just keep doing it. Because it's become a habit, because our brains are made like that. If we do something several times, we become acclimatized to doing it, and therefore it becomes a habit. And therein comes the whole issue of addiction, because you felt good the first time you drank, maybe it covered over something that you lacked, and now you like it, so you repeat it, and your body gets used to it, and now you become chemically hooked to that which it is that you're using, and it becomes not just a habit, it now becomes an addiction, because you get to a place where your body is demanding it. Now, if you look back at what we are just saying, is that whole process of getting to addiction came from the fact that maybe you lack the skill to control your desires. Maybe you lack the skill to steer your will. You lack the skill to stop. You lack the skill to say, hey, I can see the outcome is not good, so let me stop. And that is so important in the independence level, because at that independence level, then you're able, once you learn and you know how to control that, then you're able to say, this is what I want, and I need to work at it to be able to achieve it. And that really determines your destiny in life, because it is when you're able to make a decision and follow it through that you're able to achieve something. It is because I have a plan that I work through. And it's amazing how a human being is created. A human being is created to dream. And you don't even know why you dream the dreams you dream. You don't even know why you want to achieve what you want to achieve. You just know you're created to achieve something, and you dream it. And the amazing thing about a human being is the ability to dream, follow through, and make it come to pass. And that way, as soon as it comes to pass, you then get the confidence, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Then as you learn that, then you are able to plan and achieve. Plan and achieve. But now we are talking about people who have lost it somewhere along the way. They were planning to achieve something, but there was a distraction. Because they could not control their behavior, they ended up getting hooked onto alcohol, they get hooked onto a drug, or they get hooked into a negative behavior that has a negative outcome. And if not controlled at that point, they fall back where we started as a child, at a dependent level. You find someone who is 40 years old, but they are not able to take care of themselves. Why? They are hooked to something. They are hooked to a drug. They are hooked to a behavior pattern that is negative. And now they can no longer operate at the independent level. They lose control of their will. And once you have lost control of your will, you will need to take off from that environment you are in, come to a place like GLC, first of all, to detox, remove the chemicals that are in your system. Secondly, to retrace your step to where you lost yourself, so that you can begin once again to get back in the business of life. Just being able to, earn a living, have a family, and support children the way you are supported, and be able, therefore, to be what we call a responsible citizen. So you can see from that process is that once you lose yourself and your self-discovery, you lose so much of what you need in life. And all those things I've said are completely obvious. Nothing scientific about it, but it's amazing how many people just get lost in the process. And so we find that by just reiterating these things and bringing them to the awareness of many people who have come to GLC, you find that people say, actually, I had lost myself. And now that you say these things, I have begun to find myself afresh. And what we really celebrate in GLC is when you see somebody who now begins to take back control of their lives. They take back their steering wheel. They take back their brakes. So when they leave, they're able to say, no more drinking. They're able to say, no, this is a negative. I'm getting negative outcomes out of my behavior. That's all there is to it. Once a person is independent, again, they're able to control themselves. They will become whatever God created them to become. That is self-discovery in a nutshell. And that's what we work with people to find. And once a person is back to who they were created to be, they are free enough to make decisions. They are free enough to determine what the destiny of their life will be. Then that person doesn't need anything else. They can now go out and become all that they were created to become. That is self-discovery in a nutshell.
Wow. So there you go, guys. I don't think there's anything more to add on the importance of self-identity. You've heard it from Githaiga. I really don't think there's anything more to add. These are the lessons that are imparted on the men going through this program. And these are lessons that are available even for you out there. Reach out and we'll tell you how to get access to lessons on self-identity. God bless you. Till next time.